The core of our sun burns at 15 million degrees Celsius. It's a number so large it's hard to imagine, the kind of heat that forges elements and gives life to an entire planet. But what if I told you that on Earth, scientists have already built a machine that has reached and sustained over 120 million degrees, a temperature 8 times hotter than the sun's core? This isn't science fiction. It's the story of China's artificial sun, and today we'll explain step by step how they are building what should be impossible. First, let's be clear. This artificial sun isn't a star floating in a laboratory. That is just a nickname for a machine with a much more scientific name, a nuclear fusion reactor. To understand why this is such a big deal, you have to know about its older, more common cousin, nuclear fission. Fission is the process we've used in nuclear power plants for over 70 years. Think of it like snapping a dry twig. You take a large, heavy atom like uranium and split it in two. That break releases a burst of energy, but it also leaves behind messy, radioactive waste that we have to store for thousands of years. It works, but it's not a perfect solution. Nuclear fusion, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. Instead of breaking big things apart, you are taking two very small, light things and squeezing them together with incredible force. It's like clapping your hands to create a sound wave, but on an atomic scale. Scientists typically use two special versions of hydrogen, called deuterium and tritium. When you fuse them together, they create a new, heavier particle and, most importantly, release an absolutely massive amount of energy. This is the same process that powers our sun and every other star in the universe. It's clean, it's powerful, and the fuel can be sourced from simple seawater. It is, for all intents and purposes, the perfect energy source. So if it's so perfect, why have we been stuck using fission for so long? The simple answer is that building a star on Earth is monumentally difficult. For nearly a century, the idea has been stumped by two giant, seemingly impossible problems. The first and most obvious one is the heat. To force those hydrogen atoms to fuse together, you need to recreate the conditions inside a star. You need temperatures that make the surface of the sun look cool. How do you hold something that is 8 times hotter than the sun's core? No physical material in the universe can withstand that kind of heat. It would instantly vaporize. The solution sounds like something from a movie. You build a bottle made of pure force. Scientists call this device a tokamak, which is essentially a donut-shaped chamber surrounded by some of the most powerful superconducting magnets ever created. These magnets generate an intense, invisible magnetic field that traps the superheated fuel, now a state of matter called plasma, and suspends it perfectly in the center of the chamber, never allowing it to touch the walls. It's a magnetic bottle for a miniature star, but even if you can solve the containment problem, you immediately slam into the second hurdle, getting more energy out than you put in. To create and sustain that plasma and run those massive magnets, you need to pump in a tremendous amount of electricity. For decades, every fusion experiment in the world was like spending $10 on gas to drive to a job that only pays you $5. Yes, you made it to work, but it's a losing game, a net energy loss. The entire holy grail of fusion research is to flip that math around to finally achieve what scientists call ignition, the point where the reaction sustains itself and produces more power than it consumes.
We need to supply those particles and the energy needed to combine them ourselves. And if we can't extract more energy than we put in, that's just a science experiment, not an energy source.
So, after decades of theoretical work and small-scale tests, scientists finally designed this incredible magnetic bottle, a donut-shaped force field to hold the plasma. It was a brilliant solution to the problem of containment. But designing the perfect bottle is one thing. Learning how to keep a captured piece of a star burning inside it stably for more than a few seconds is a completely different mountain to climb. And this is where China's project, officially known as the Experimental Advanced Superconducting Tokamak, or EAST, enters the world stage. It's one thing to have the blueprint for a magnetic bottle, but it's another to master the art of using it. The process is one of incredible precision. First, all the air is sucked out of the donut-shaped chamber, creating a vacuum more perfect than what you'd find in outer space. This ensures there are no stray particles to interfere with the reaction. Then, a tiny puff of fuel, usually deuterium extracted from seawater, is injected inside. This is where the real show begins. A massive electrical current is blasted through the gas, stripping the atoms of their electrons and transforming the fuel into a glowing, superheated plasma. At the same time, the colossal superconducting magnets surrounding the chamber roar to life. They wrap the plasma in a complex, invisible web of magnetic forces, lifting it away from the walls and squeezing it with immense pressure. The goal is to hold that plasma, hotter than the sun, perfectly steady while continuously heating it, pushing the temperature and pressure higher and higher until the atoms begin to fuse. For decades, the problem was that the plasma would thrash around violently like a wild animal.
plastic or glass, it would be gone, in milliseconds. So you have to have some non-material mechanism of confining the plasma. In the case of stars, that non-material force is gravity. So gravity is what holds a star together. It's what holds the plasma in long enough for it to react and sustain itself by the fusion reactions. But on Earth, gravity is extremely weak. I mean, I don't mean to say we don't fall. Yes, we fall. But the mutual gravitational attraction of small objects is very weak compared with the electrical repulsion or any other force that you can think about.
Wiggle out of the magnetic field and hit the chamber wall, causing the whole reaction to collapse in less than a second. This challenge isn't one China is facing alone. The EAST project is also a critical part of a much larger global collaboration called ITER, a massive international fusion reactor being built in France. Think of it like this. ITER is the final, world-changing fusion power plant, and China's EAST is one of the key test engines, pushing the limits of the technology and sharing its findings so the whole world can benefit. By building and running their own advanced reactor, Chinese scientists are not just aiming for their own success. They are solving fundamental problems for all of humanity. They are finding the exact magnetic frequencies, the perfect plasma densities, and the most effective heating methods to tame the star inside the bottle. And in recent years, they have succeeded beyond anyone's wildest expectations. While other projects struggled to hold plasma for a few seconds, the EAST team began systematically breaking every record. First, they achieved the record temperature of 120 million degrees Celsius. Then they focused on duration in late 2021. They accomplished something truly historic. They fired up the reactor and held a stable, superheated plasma not for a second, not for a minute, but for 1,056 seconds. Imagine trying to perfectly control a bolt of lightning inside a bottle for nearly 17 minutes straight. That is the level of mind-boggling precision we are talking about. It was a landmark moment, a signal to the entire world that the core problems of plasma instability were, for the first time in history, largely solved. This achievement proved that the science is solid. The magnetic bottle works, and it can work for extended periods. It moved the entire field of fusion energy from the realm of hopeful theory into the world of proven engineering. But a world record science experiment, no matter how impressive, doesn't power your home. The next, and perhaps most important, step is figuring out how to connect this artificial sun to the grid and change the world, and the answer is surprisingly simple, almost old-fashioned. All of that incredible heat being generated by the fusion reaction inside the tokamak is used for one basic purpose: to boil water. The outer wall of the reactor is designed to absorb the intense energy, heating a surrounding blanket of liquid. That liquid then transfers its heat to water, which flashes into high-pressure steam. That steam is then channeled away to do exactly what it has done for over a century: spin a turbine connected to a generator. It's the same fundamental principle as a coal plant or a traditional nuclear plant, but with one revolutionary difference. The heat source is perfectly clean, fundamentally safe, and powered by a fuel that is virtually limitless. This is what makes fusion the ultimate energy endgame, and it rests on three game-changing benefits. First is the fuel. The deuterium needed for the reaction can be extracted from a single liter of seawater to produce the same amount of energy as burning 300 liters of gasoline. It's an energy source that is available to every country with a coastline, effectively ending the geopolitical struggles over oil and gas. The second benefit is safety. Unlike a fission reactor, which is loaded with months' worth of radioactive fuel and can risk a meltdown, a fusion reactor is fundamentally different. It only contains a few grams of fuel at any given moment. If anything goes wrong, if the plasma becomes unstable or the power is cut, the reaction simply stops. It can't melt down. It just fizzles out. Finally, there's the waste. Fusion produces no carbon emissions and no long-lived, high-level radioactive waste. The only byproduct is helium, an inert and harmless gas. The reactor components themselves become mildly activated, but this material decays within a human lifetime, not tens of thousands of years. I've seen many mega projects get announced with big promises that slowly fade away, but what's incredible here is the public year-over-year progress. China isn't just talking about fusion. They are consistently breaking their own world records. Which tells me this isn't just a hopeful government plan, it's an accelerating reality. Now the final steps are becoming a global race. China has already announced its intention to build a next-generation reactor by 2035 and is aiming for its first commercial fusion power plant to be connected to the grid by 2050. But private companies in the US and government-backed projects in Europe are right there with them. The quiet question in the halls of power and science is no longer if fusion will happen, but who gets there first. Let me know in the comments which nation you think will win this clean energy race. And so, the once impossible idea of bottling a star is becoming a tangible engineering marvel. We've seen how China is pushing past the known limits of heat and physics, methodically taming plasma 8 times hotter than the sun to unlock the ultimate clean energy source. It's a project that promises to not only power our cities but to fundamentally reshape our world. If this look into our energy future amazed you, share it with someone who needs to know what's coming. And subscribe for more stories on the technology that will define our world.